I want to know what text is the closest to the word of God directly.
If you're seeking a text considered by its followers to be the direct word of God, the Quran is unique in that regard. Muslims believe the Quran to be the literal and unaltered word of God, Allah, revealed directly to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel over a period of 23 years. It's regarded as God's final revelation to humanity and remains unchanged since its inception, with a focus on the oneness of God, guidance for righteous living, and the path to divine closeness. The Bible, particularly the Old Testament for Judaism and the New Testament for Christianity, is also revered as divinely inspired. Christians believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God, with the New Testament containing Jesus Christ's teachings, which many consider to be God's message to humanity in the form of his Son. The Old Testament, shared with Judaism, also holds the divine commandments and laws as revealed to figures like Moses. Other texts like the Bhagavad Gita and Torah are considered sacred and divinely inspired within their respective traditions. But the Quran is unique in being viewed as God's actual words, without human authorship from a theological standpoint. Does the idea of reading the Quran or exploring the Bible as God's message appeal to you? Or are you leaning toward a different kind of text?
Okay, why is the Quran considered the direct word of God, whereas the other texts, such as the Bible, are considered inspired word of God? What is the difference?
The distinction between the Quran being considered the direct word of God and the Bible being considered the inspired word of God comes down to how each religious tradition views the process of revelation and transmission. The Quran as the direct word of God. In Islam, the Quran is believed to be the literal and unaltered word of God, revealed directly from Allah to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. Muslims believe that Muhammad himself did not contribute to the text in any way. He served as a transmitter of God's words. The Quran is recited in its original Arabic, and it is believed to be eternal and unchanged since it was revealed. This sense of being directly from God means the words themselves are sacred and divine, not subject to human interpretation or alteration. The key point here.
So using the information you just told me, you're saying that the Quran is the word of God directly, while the Bible is inspired by the word of God. Give me a yes or no answer. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, based on the information I shared, that is how these texts are traditionally viewed within their respective religious contexts.
Wow. There it is. There it is.
Boom.
There it is. So it just literally said, using its own words, that the Bible itself is not the word of God, but the inspired word of God, while the Quran is the direct word of God. And this is what other religions are saying. This is what Christianity has said. They're saying it themselves. And this is what Islam is saying themselves. Both religions are saying that this is what it is. Christians aren't saying this is the direct word of God. They're saying it's inspired, meaning someone else wrote it. The Quran is saying this is the word of God, and it's directly the word of God. Nothing more and nothing less.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you think about it in that way, that Christians themselves, for their own religion, believe that their text is the inspired word of God. And it's accepted that in Islam, the Quran is the direct word of God. And it's interesting because even though it's through almost like two layers of other entities, you could say, in a way, because, you know, of course, through the Prophet Muhammad, who got it from the angel Gabriel, who of course got that from God directly. So even despite all that, it is still considered the direct word of God. So it's interesting that even despite the Bible, where it's supposed to be, some texts were written by apostles even who worked side by side with Jesus, it's still considered not direct. It's considered inspired. And I know the Book of Thomas actually does have direct quotes from Jesus. So it's interesting that could be considered something direct, but that was left to be omitted from the Bible. Interesting enough.
Yeah. And just for instance, like if you hear something from my wife that I said, it came from me. You know what I mean? Because we're one unit. Now, if an estranged friend or someone that an associate that I have, if they tell you I said someone or someone that doesn't know me, never met me, said I said something,
right.
Hey, maybe I did say, maybe I didn't, but hey, that's the whole thing. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying with it when it comes to the Bible and the Quran. If the Quran is saying this came directly from an angel, okay.
Right.
Because the angel works directly with God.
Yeah.
It's not saying, the Bible saying, hey, this came from John or, this guy or that guy. He knew Jesus. This is coming from another human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is just crazy information. It just feels so cool doing this and interesting, guys. So, and it even talked about Reiki